All right, so you're prepping for a mental health support worker interview.
And feeling a little overwhelmed, maybe a little nervous.
Totally understandable. But that's why we're here today,
Diving deep into RoleCatcher's amazing resources.
to help you totally nail that interview.
We're talking about interview questions, insights into what hiring managers are really looking for.
And even some cool AI tools to give you that extra edge.
It's like having a secret weapon for your interview prep.
Exactly. So first things first, RoleCatcher emphasizes this idea that interviewers have goals with every single question they ask.
They're not just going through the motions.
Right, like when they ask about your experience working with people with mental health disorders, they're not just checking a box.
It's deeper than that.
They want to see your comfort level, how you connect your past to this specific role.
And get a sense of your genuine passion for this kind of work.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into some of these common questions.
Like a classic one. Can you tell us about your experience working with individuals with mental health disorders?
This is your time to shine.
Right. Don't just list jobs or volunteer roles.
Share specific examples that show how comfortable you are, how interested you are in this field.
Did you volunteer at a crisis hotline?
Maybe you had some personal experiences that sparked your interest.
Those personal touches can be really powerful.
And super important, make sure you tailor your answer to the specific job description.
Oh yeah, if they're emphasizing group therapy, highlight any experience you have in that area.
Right. Show them you've done your homework.
And don't forget to mention any relevant educations, certifications, workshops.
Continuous learning, it's huge in this field.
Shows you're committed to staying current.
Now be ready for those follow-up questions. They might ask you to elaborate on an experience or describe a challenging situation you faced. How would you approach that?
Preparation is key.
Have those anecdotes ready to go?
Like they might ask, tell me about a time you had difficulty connecting with a client. What did you do?
So have a story that shows off your problem-solving skills, your communication skills.
Like you've got those stories in your back pocket ready to go.
Now, another question you'll probably hear is, how do you approach building a positive rapport with clients?
This is all about active listening, empathy, non-judgmental communication.
Don't just say, I'm a good listener.
Right. Give an example of how you built trust with a client who was initially withdrawn.
Or how you adapted your communication style to meet a specific client's needs.
Paint a picture for them.
RoleCatcher really emphasizes avoiding generic answers.
The more specific you are, the more tailored your responses are, the more memorable you'll be.
And speaking of tailoring,
That's where RoleCatcher's AI tool, Copilot, comes in.
this sounds amazing.
You paste the job description into Copilot, and it analyzes it, figures out the keywords, the skills they're looking for.
It's like having a personal assistant who highlights what's most important to the employer.
Exactly. And then Copilot uses this information to suggest improvements to your CV and cover letter.
Make sure you're showcasing the most relevant experience.
It can even help tailor your practice interview answers, even gives you feedback on your delivery.
This is a game changer. All right, let's get back to those interview questions. A tough one. How do you address challenging behaviors or situations with clients?
Deep breath. This is where you showcase your crisis intervention skills, your knowledge of de-escalation techniques.
Be prepared to discuss specific strategies, deep breathing exercises, active listening.
Setting clear boundaries, knowing when to bring in other professionals.
And again, a good story can make all the difference.
Like you could say, I once worked with a client who was having a panic attack. I used deep breathing techniques, provided a safe space for them to express their emotions, and eventually they regained control.
That's a perfect example.
Shows you can stay calm, use those techniques in real-life situations.
Now, they might hit you with follow-up questions.
What de-escalation techniques are you familiar with? Or how would you handle a client who's getting agitated?
Be ready to go deeper, provide more examples.
It's about showing them you know your stuff.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about client care. How do you ensure clients are receiving appropriate care and support?
Here's where you highlight your proactive side.
Talk about how you monitor progress, work with clients to set achievable goals, how you provide feedback and encouragement.
And personalized care plans are essential. Gotta address each client's unique needs.
It's about going beyond just therapy, thinking about their overall well-being.
And don't forget teamwork.
Right, mental health support often involves working with psychiatrists, social workers.
All sorts of professionals.
Let them know you're a team player.
You could say, I regularly collaborate with the client's psychiatrist to make sure their medication and therapy are working together towards their goals.
Love that. Now let's tackle confidentiality. How do you handle confidentiality and privacy concerns when working with clients?
This is non-negotiable. You need to show them you deeply understand privacy laws, like HIPAA and ethical guidelines.
It's about reassuring them you will protect client information.
Start by stating your unwavering commitment to confidentiality.
And then what? How do you go beyond just saying it?
Give a specific example of how you've maintained confidentiality in a past role.
Something like, I understand the importance of HIPAA and always make sure client information is kept safe and only shared with authorized people.
Perfect. Shows you're not just talking the talk.
You're walking the walk.
Yeah.
Now, how do you stay up to date with current trends and best practices in mental health support?
This is where you show off your love of learning.
Mention conferences, workshops, journals, anything that keeps your knowledge fresh.
And you can actually use RoleCatcher's Career Guide for this.
Oh, yeah.
It's got great insights into professional development opportunities, specifically for mental health support workers.
Outlines typical career paths, the skills needed at each level.
It's like a roadmap for your career. And to really impress them, tie a recent learning experience to a potential work scenario.
Like, I recently went to a conference on trauma-informed care, and I learned new techniques for working with clients who've experienced trauma, and I can't wait to apply these skills in my work.
Exactly. Shows you're not just learning for the sake of learning, you're actively looking to get better at what you do.
Now let's tackle a tough one, ethics. How do you handle ethical dilemmas when working with clients?
Ethical dilemmas? They're real.
Interviewers want to see how you think, how you make decisions in tough situations.
So first, lay out your understanding of those ethical principles like autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence.
Those big words.
Then share a brief but impactful story of an ethical challenge you've faced.
It's about showing you can think critically, make good decisions even when things are complicated.
So you could say something like, I once had a client confide in me about wanting to hurt themselves. I had to balance respecting their confidentiality with making sure they were safe. So I followed our protocol, contacted the right people, and made sure they got immediate help.
Powerful example. Shows commitment to those ethical principles while still prioritizing the client's safety. Now, switching gears again. Cultural sensitivity. How do you approach cultural sensitivity and diversity when working with clients?
Show them you're aware of those diverse needs, that you're committed to inclusive care.
And show them you can actually provide culturally competent care, that you respect individual beliefs, values, backgrounds.
No generalizations. Paint a picture. Tell them about a time you adapted your approach to meet a client's specific cultural needs.
So it's not just about being aware of diversity, it's about putting it into practice.
Exactly.
You could say, I once worked with a client who was hesitant about therapy because of cultural stigma. I took the time to learn about their beliefs, and I incorporated their values into our sessions, which really helped build trust.
Beautiful example.
It shows you're willing to go the extra mile to really understand and accommodate those diverse needs.
That's what it's all about.
Now, let's move on to advocacy.
How do you advocate for clients within the healthcare system? Healthcare systems, they can be a maze. Here's where you show them you'll go above and beyond to help your clients navigate it all.
Talking about communicating with providers, maybe appealing insurance denials.
Connecting clients with resources in the community.
Right. What's a good way to really illustrate this?
Tell a story. A short, powerful story about successful advocacy.
Like, I had a client whose insurance wouldn't cover a treatment they needed. So I dove into their policy, I gathered evidence from their doctor, and I submitted a detailed appeal. And you know what? The insurance company reversed their decision, and the client got the care they deserved.
Mic drop.
Exactly. It shows your dedication to client well-being, and it shows you can handle those complex systems.
You're a problem solver.
All right, we've covered a lot. We've talked about figuring out what the interviewer is really asking, tailoring your answers,
Using the STAR method, which we'll get into more later.
and even using AI for interview prep.
It's like having a whole team of coaches in your corner.
But before we move on, let's take a moment to really absorb everything we've learned so far.
What are the key takeaways for you?
Think about it. We'll be right back after a quick break.
It's been a lot, hasn't it? All those interview questions.
I know, right?
But I think the main takeaway for me is preparation is key.
Total.
Having those stories ready to go, knowing how to structure your answers, understanding what the interviewer is looking for.
It makes such a difference.
And honestly, it's really empowering to have tools like RoleCatcher's Copilot. It gives you so much personalized support throughout the process.
Takes out a lot of the guesswork.
For sure. Now let's dive back in, shall we? One question that often comes up, it can be a bit tricky. What are some of the biggest challenges you anticipate facing as a mental health support worker?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is, right? You want to be honest, but you also want to show them you can handle it.
Like walking a tightrope.
Exactly. The key is to be self-aware, to have a realistic view of the role. Acknowledge the emotional toll.
Like it's demanding work.
You could say something like, I know this job can be emotionally heavy sometimes. I'll be seeing people going through really tough times.
Shows them you're not naive about the realities of the work.
Right. But then you pivot, talk about how you manage those challenges. Self-care is crucial.
Boundaries, supervision, mindfulness, having hobbies that help you de-stress.
It's about being proactive with your own well-being, which makes you a better caregiver in the end.
Absolutely. Okay, another one that requires some careful thought. Tell me about a time you had to set boundaries with a client. How did you handle it?
Boundaries, they're essential in this work.
Absolutely.
You have to show compassion, but also maintain your professionalism.
So how do you answer this one?
Share a story about a time a client maybe got too dependent or crossed a professional line.
Like calling after hours.
You could say, I had a client who would call me all the time outside of our appointments. I understood they needed support, but I explained I was only available at certain times and encouraged them to use other resources, like a crisis hotline, if they needed immediate help.
That's a good example.
Right. It shows you can handle those situations with grace and firmness.
Okay, now for the question that always comes up towards the end. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
This one isn't just for mental health support workers, it's everywhere. But it can be hard to answer authentically.
Like, what are they looking for?
They want to see your ambition, that you're committed to growing, but also that you're genuinely interested in this particular role, this organization.
So should you tell them you want to be the CEO in 5 years?
Probably not. It's better to focus on wanting to develop your skills within their organization.
In 5 years, I want to be a super skilled mental health support worker, making a real difference. I'm eager to learn from the experts here, maybe get some more specialized certifications, something like that.
Now you're talking. It shows ambition, but it also shows you're committed to this specific path.
Now, RoleCatcher's interview guide, it's got a ton of potential questions for this role.
It's an amazing resource.
But there's one it doesn't really address, and it can really throw people off.
Really? What is it?
It comes right at the end. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh yeah, the tables have turned.
So easy to just freeze up, but this is your chance to get more information, show you're engaged.
And leave a lasting impression.
Right. It's an opportunity. You've been listening. Now you can show you're truly interested.
So, what are some good questions to ask?
Asking about the role itself.
Yeah.
Something they haven't already covered in the job description. That's always a good start.
Like, can you tell me more about what I'd be doing day to day, or what kind of professional development opportunities do you offer?
Shows you're thinking ahead. You want to grow.
You could also ask about the team, the company culture. What's it like to work on this team? What's the work-life balance like at your organization?
Shows you're thinking about the big picture, how you'd fit in.
Exactly. And here's a little tip. Write down a few questions during the interview that you genuinely want to know the answer to. That way, even if you get nervous, you've got some thoughtful questions ready to go.
I love that. It shows you're prepared and curious.
And don't forget to end on a positive note. Thank the interviewer for their time and tell them how excited you are about the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm really interested in this position, and I look forward to hearing from you. Something simple, like that.
Perfect. Leaves them with a great final impression.
Okay, now let's talk about those behavioral questions, the ones that really test your active listening skills.
The ones that start with, tell me about a time, or give me an example of.
Those can be tough. You have to think on your feet.
You do, but they give you a chance to show your skills in action.
So how do you tackle those?
The STAR method. It's your secret weapon. Situation, task, action, result.
The STAR method.
It helps you structure your answer in a clear, concise way.
You set the scene, describe the situation, then the task you had to complete.
Then the actions you took, and finally the outcome, the result.
Okay, I get it.
So let's go back to that question. How do you approach building a positive rapport with clients? This is where the STAR method really shines.
Instead of just saying, I'm a good listener, you give a concrete example.
Exactly. So you could say, when I was volunteering at a crisis hotline, I talked to someone who was really hesitant to open up situation. My job was to make them feel safe and comfortable enough to share their feelings. Task. I used active listening, reflecting their emotions, asking open-ended questions to encourage them to express themselves. Action. And as a result, they started to trust me. They opened up about their struggles, and we were able to connect them with the help they needed. Result.
Wow, that's a great example.
It brings your experience to life, shows the interviewer how you actually put those skills into practice.
And speaking of putting things into practice, RoleCatcher's Career Guide, it's not just about professional development.
It's not. It also gives you a glimpse into the day-to-day of this career path.
It's like what you'd actually be doing.
It breaks it down by experience level, from entry level all the way up to a senior mental health support worker.
So you can see what your day might look like, what skills you need to move up.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher is with you for the whole journey, not just getting the job, but throughout your career.
Now let's talk about Copilot again, that AI tool we mentioned earlier.
It's pretty cool, right?
It analyzes job descriptions, then suggests improvements for your CV and cover letter.
It's like having a personal career coach who tailors your application to each specific job.
So you stand out from the crowd.
And it can even give you feedback on your practice interview answers, help you sound more confident and polished.
AI is really changing the job search game.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got a handle on the types of questions to expect, how to answer them. We've looked at the career guide. We've even touched on AI for interview prep. What else can we do to help our listener feel ready to conquer that interview?
Well, it's not just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. Nonverbal communication can make a huge difference in how you come across.
Oh, yeah. Body language, all that stuff.
It's like that old saying, right? It's not what you say, but how you say it. Think about eye contact, posture.
Sit up straight. Be open and welcoming with your body language.
It shows confidence, professionalism.
And don't forget to smile. A genuine smile can really make a difference.
Makes you seem approachable, enthusiastic.
It can put you and the interviewer at ease.
Creates a much more positive vibe.
Now, something that's super important in any interaction, but especially in an interview for a role like this. Active listening.
Active listening is key.
It shows you're present, engaged, you genuinely care about what the interviewer is saying.
You're not just waiting for your turn to talk.
You're absorbing the information.
So how do you show active listening during an interview?
Well, making eye contact is huge.
Nodding along to show you're following.
Asking clarifying questions if you need to make sure you understand something.
And probably the most important thing, don't interrupt. Let them finish their thought before you jump in.
That's a good one.
It shows respect.
Oh, and here's another tip. Take notes.
Taking notes during the interview.
Yeah, but briefly, just to show you're paying attention, that you value what they're saying.
That's smart. Just make sure you keep that eye contact. Don't let note-taking become a distraction.
Right, it's all about balance.
Yes.
Okay, so let's wrap this up.
Time to bring it all together.
We've talked about so much. Understanding the interviewer's goals, tailoring your answers, the STAR method, even AI for interview prep.
We've covered it all.
But at the end of the day, remember this. You're going into this interview because you're passionate about helping others.
You want to make a difference in people's lives.
That's what drew you to this field.
So let that passion shine through.
Use your active listening skills to connect with the interviewer, not just to answer questions.
Show them who you are, what drives you.
And trust that with the right preparation, you're going to do great.
And you're clearly doing the right preparation just by listening to this deep dive.
Exactly. You've got the skills, you've got the passion, and you've got resources like RoleCatcher to support you every step of the way.
From that awesome CV to practicing those interview answers,
You're ready.
go out there and rock that interview.
Best of luck. We're rooting for you.